As you may remember, there was a comic a few years back where Anduin was an old man and he was about to embark in the final battle between the light and the void, which would be pretty much like the culmination of all the Warcraft lore that he's been building up for decades. Then Blizzard came out, told us this is just one of the possibilities, and at the time we believed this was almost completely retconned. However, now we have Anduin actually missing, and if we learned anything from Terrarian, it is that you can be gone for a decade while accruing hundreds of years of experience, which could definitely justify the old man's stature. We have a lot of Bronze Dragonflight lore where they're fighting for maintaining one single timeline, meaning that this could be one, and we also have a high likelihood of the Void returning with a potential Void invasion in the very near future. Now, with Anduin's mysterious disappearance, could we be heading for that timeline and the final and the ultimate battle against the Void? If you guys are looking to buy Dragonflight or anything Warcraft related, Gamivo has some amazing sales that you can check out with my link. On top of that, you can get software, gift cards, various games at crazy prices. Best of all, you can use my code DORON to add yet another discount to your purchase, so make sure to click my link below, check out Gamivo, and grab some amazing deals. So, Anduin has essentially disappeared at the end of Shadowlands with very unclear goals, like we really have no idea what is going on. He was a pawn of the Jailer, was under strict mind control, and as we broke him free, he was never really the same. He needed time for himself, he needed to learn who he is, and for some reason he also decided to help out Sylvanas in the mall, or at least to talk with her. Now, everything about this has been super vague. We don't actually know what he's been doing, what he's learning, but honestly, I think all of that is actually intentional. I don't think Blizzard doesn't know what to do with Anduin, but it's more like he already knew what we're about to learn soon, and he needs time to prepare for it and to save Azeroth just like his father with him. As all of you know, Anduin was mind controlled by Zobel and he was used as a pawn, and in my opinion, with his closeness to him, I'm pretty sure he was let in on some secrets, maybe not intentionally, and what the Jailer's goals were, because we actually never learned what the Jailer's goals were. Sylvanas was also a pawn, and she knew that this world is a prison, and a few other cosmological shenanigans that are still a secret that are now being thrown our way, that are honestly starting to make at least a bit more sense as we discover more Old God and more Titan documents. The Jailer was fighting this what is to come, this cliffhanger, some insanely massive threat that Steve Denuser in a very recent interview said that N'Zoth is also aware of this and he's focusing on it right now when we have new N'Zoth Whisperers. This means that the cliffhanger we were left with at the end of Shadowlands is definitely at least going to unravel a bit in Dragonflight. Now my guess is that Anduin, due to his proximity to this massive cosmological being, the Jailer, probably was in on some vision, or he knew at least to some extent what was actually going on. He knew he probably couldn't explain it to us, or that it just cannot be described in words, and he decided to go into the mall or whatever else he is to gather more knowledge and to figure out a strategy. Before Dragonflight, it was confirmed that 5 years had passed since the start of Shadowlands, but approximately 3 years had gone since we had sentenced Sylvanas and since Anduin went into his self-exile. Now, since then, we had received only one hint, and that was right at the start of Dragonflight. We had a conversation with Gen, where they talked about the reports they had actually received on Anduin and where he actually is. All of it is purposely vague because no one actually knows where he is. It is kind of set up as a situation where he'll be found when he wants to be found, and apparently there had been a few spy reports and sightings of Anduin, but nothing was actually concrete. At the moment, we don't really know where he is. Some say he's in the mall, but it is possible that he may have returned somewhere on Azeroth, especially because we have these spy reports, and I honestly doubt they would send spies directly into the mall. Now, during that time, Terrarian has been leading the Alliance for essentially 5 years now, which, when you think about it, is actually longer than Anduin has been king, which, for the sake of interesting future story development, kinda gives him more legitimacy than the actual king has. But that is not for another video. This brings us to the comic we got about 5 years back or a bit more, known as the Son of the Wolf, that used to be one of the biggest speculations for what is going to happen to WoW. Some people believe this is gonna be the ending of WoW, and at the time we believed this to be retcon, but now, with the most recent information, it could totally become a reality. So, we have a scene in a potential future where Anduin Vryn is an old man, and he rereads his father's last letter before Varian fell in the battle against the Legion, and he realizes there is one more battle to be fought, the biggest battle ever, the deciding one. Aboard the Exodar, Velen informs the old man High King Anduin that there will never be an opportunity like this again, as in once in hundreds of thousands of years, and as Anduin remembers his father, Velen says that the light will triumph over the shadow this day. Now keep in mind, things have kinda changed. At the time, light and the void seemed to be the main forces, the main focus of the WoW lore this entire dynamic. Since then, Blizzard kinda changed the lore a bit and we got to focus more on the first ones, the other cosmological forces, so this final battle between the light and the void may be a thing, but not like in the literal sense of the word. While the light and the void do exist as separate cosmological forces, it could kinda be a figure of speech, as in forces of order and chaos battling each other, because technically the 6 forces can really be split into 2 groups, kinda the bright side, the order ones, and really the dark and the chaos one. Now, at the time, Blizzard sort of half retconned this thing. They told us that this comic is a possible future that may or may not happen. There are many possibilities with the alternate timelines, that it is apparently an ending to one timeline that may not end up being the actual one. At the time, they kinda throw a curveball our way. We believe this to be completely retconned, as in they forgot about it, but with the recent Dragonflight lore, this might just be back on the table. We got a lot of signs. Now, we have Anduin missing, and he's sort of in a time loop where he may become older. We have the Infinite and the Bronze Dragons sort of battling each other to the death for the real timeline, and we have the potential return of the Old Gods and the Void Lords, which, in my opinion, really seems like a setup for this scenario. So let's address all these aspects and see how realistic this scenario could be. So in regards to this aging thing, Blizzard has been super vague about it. Time actually does pass differently in the Shadowlands, but they told us it is not exactly like a black hole science fiction thing where like 100-year passes in the course of a single day on Azeroth, but it could be a slight thing. We personally returned from the Shadowlands. We didn't exactly return as seniors, but who actually knows where Anduin is? He may not even be in the Shadowlands as far as we know it. These black hole and time travel things, these science fiction that Blizzard mentions, are 100% a thing in the lore. I mean, we have Terralion that was gone for like a few decades on Azeroth, and he spent like hundreds of years with a ton of battle experience fighting for the Army of the Light. So the reality that Anduin could return as an old man is 100% a legit possibility. Now, the second point we have is, at the moment, we're kind of at the culmination of time travel and the alternate timelines. Recently, from a new Blizzard interview, we learned that the Bronze Dragons are Titan affiliated and they're fighting for an ordered timeline, one that the Titans like, while the Infinite Dragons are fighting for many possibilities, which is kind of the prerequisite of free will when you think about it. At the moment, this story is in really early stages, but this could totally be a hint for what Blizzard said all those years back about how this is one of the possibilities. Additionally, with all this time travel stuff, this scenario with Anduin could also be like an instance similar to End Time, where we had Deathwing back in Cataclysm, so it may not be the main storyline, but it could be future content in some expansion. Now, lastly, as you may know that if you've been following the lore, we have a ton of Old God hints and Void Lord skins. There are new Old God Whispers, there are new Old God documents that talk about hidden continents, the 5th Old Gods, the Old Gods changing their plans, possibly even having succeeded in the corruption of Azeroth. So there is a very high likelihood that we may be facing a Void onslaught in the very near future, and with Terralion leading the Alliance, we could have the Army of Light on our side. So really, this possibility of a Light and a Void battle could definitely turn into a reality with the way that things are being set up. It may not be such a black and white battle. The Light versus the Void could be one of the aspects of this battle, but that could explain the vision, and Anduin as a priest could return to aid us in this scenario. Seeing that he might be in the maw, unfortunately this could also bring back Sylvanas, which really no one wants to see at this point. Furthermore, with all these shades of grey being thrown our way and Anduin being a priest, there could definitely be a storyline where Anduin might start wielding the powers of the Void, similar to Void Elves, and just wielding the Void for the good of Azeroth. Additionally, there's also a possibility that the vision may have been something that the Light Beings want to happen that could definitely be biased, similar to the recent Titan things we had learned about how they're kind of enforcing their rules upon us. However, Anduin, as really one of the main characters of the entire Warcraft universe and Warcraft as a whole, is bound to return in the very near future, and that old comic vision seems more likely than ever before. Thank you for watching. Check out what 10.1 the Embers of Netherrealm means by clicking on the screen, and check out the Notes Academy for videos of real world history. See you next time.